to Neurodiverse Voices, a space for honest conversations about disability, neurodiversity, healing, growth, and becoming who you truly are. I've started and restarted this episode so many times. Not because I don't know what I want to say, but because once you say things out loud, they become real in a different way. And I think for a long time, I've become very good at protecting people from the reality of my life. Not lying, not pretending, just filtering. Giving people the version that feels easier for them to hold. You might know that version. I call her Business Cara. She's the one in the workshops, the meetings, the smiling social media posts. She's the business owner who seems like she's doing really well. And in many ways, I am. I am incredibly proud of kindling minds. But for a long time, I've kept Business Cara and Personal Cara in two very separate boxes. Because people don't see the hours afterwards. They don't see me asleep for 4 hours after a workshop because my body completely crashes. They don't see me asking my support worker to help me into bed because I physically cannot stand anymore. They don't see the brain fog that gets so bad that words that are usually my lifeline, just stop making sense. I wanted to make this episode because I know there are so many of you silently living realities nobody fully sees. Maybe you're also wearing a mask to make others comfortable. Maybe you're also afraid of taking up space. Right now, as I'm recording this, I'm sitting in my bed, and my bed has become my entire world. It's my office, my recovery space, my desk, my dining table, my safe place, my breakdown place. And sometimes it makes me really sad. Because your bed should be somewhere you come to at the end of a full day, not somewhere you spend most of your life. At the moment, my bedroom is actually the living room. There's no proper door, just curtains. When you live behind curtains, you hear everything. The kettle boiling, the washing machine spinning, the television, the doors opening and closing. Life. I hear life continuing around me constantly. On good days, that noise is a comfort. It's like a hum that says, I'm not alone. But on bad days, it's heartbreaking. When you're stuck in a flare and all you can hear is the world moving forward while you're still trapped. There's no quiet room to retreat to, no proper separation, just those curtains. Chronic illness changes your relationship with space, but it also warps time. When you're ill, hours stretch endlessly. People talk about the pain and the fatigue, and yet, those are heavy. But nobody talks about the boredom, the mind-numbing boredom. I lie there staring at the ceiling, and my brain is still moving at 100 miles an hour. I have workshop ideas, social media campaigns, and resources I want to build for neurodivergent kids spinning in my head. My mind is stimulated, but my body refuses to cooperate. Sometimes the pain in my hands is so bad I can't even hold my phone, even to scroll. I hate that stillness. I hate the helplessness of being mentally on, but physically trapped. It's one of the loneliest parts of this journey. Most mornings I wake up around 7:30, and the first thing I do, every single day without fail, is make my bed. When your life feels this unpredictable, routines are your anchors. Making my bed makes me feel like I've achieved something before the day's even started. Then I check my calendar, meetings, deadlines, events, and that's when the calculations begin. Not normal business math, energy calculations. If I shower today, will I still manage the meeting later? Or if I wash my hair this morning, will I be bedbound tomorrow? Or do I use my energy for work or try and tidy the house? Will the venue have heavy doors, stairs, or bright lights that will trigger my nervous system? By the time I've run these numbers, I usually need a nap before my day has even properly started. A full 1 hour nap. And the whole time there's a voice in my head, a voice that says, "You're lazy, you should be able to do more. Other people work full time, why can't you just push through?" And I have to remind myself of where I was just a year ago. In early 2025, I was still trying to manage full-time teaching while my health was deteriorating. I was a perfectionist. Well, I still am, but I wanted every child in my class to feel seen every single day. But the cost in my life, I was clocking 60-hour weeks. I spent my weekends passed out in bed, not living, just recovering enough to do it all again on Monday. I remember lying on the classroom floor during my lunch breaks and break, just trying to regulate my body and steady my heart rate enough to finish the day. I pushed my body so far beyond its limits that I experienced lower body paralysis more times than I can count. I was trying to push through, but you can't negotiate with a body that's shutting down. Accepting that I have limits now, real physical limits, has been one of the hardest grieving processes imaginable. I think the hardest thing is that I remember exactly who I used to be. I remember the exact moment my life didn't just change, it split. There was a before and there was an after. The before was a day I was playing badminton in the garden. It sounds so simple now, but I remember everything. The weight of the racket, the fresh air, the ease of movement. I was just living. I didn't have to ask, if I do this today, what will it cost me tomorrow? My body was just mine. And then the next day changed. Everything. I could barely leave my bed. My lips were turning blue. I was struggling to breathe. The tremors and involuntary movements started, and I was terrified. I thought it would pass in hours, then days, and then maybe weeks. But here I am, 4 years later, still navigating it. Before I got sick, I was so active. I loved the gym, the highlands, hiking. I loved the beach, the cold air, the sound of waves. That was my freedom. Now, being outside hurts. The cold physically hurts my body. Walking hurts. Standing hurts. And I see people posting their beach walks or their runs, and I feel two things at once. I am genuinely happy for them, and I am deeply, deeply sad for myself. I miss that version of me. I miss spontaneity. Now leaving the house is like planning a military operation. For those who don't know the medical terms, I live with functional neurological disorder, FND, and POTS. FND can cause paralysis, and POTS make my heart rate fluctuate drastically. These aren't just labels, they are the reasons my independence disappeared. I had to lose the ability to drive safely. I had to learn to accept my support worker helping me dress, helping me eat, helping me get to the bathroom. That level of dependence is a bitter pill to swallow when you're so used to being fiercely independent. But despite all this, I'm a business owner. But people don't see what that looks like behind the scenes. Preparation for an event starts days in advance. I have to rest strategically. I have to check every accessibility detail, toilets, quiet spaces, entrances. I have to make sure my wheelchair attachment is charged, and by the time we actually leave, I'm already exhausted. But then we get there, and then there's masking. As someone who's also autistic, masking is a survival skill. I'm masking the autism, masking the pain, masking the exhaustion. I'm trying to look professional while my body is screaming at me. I'm trying to network while my nervous system is completely overwhelmed. I used to hate networking. It made me feel sick to my stomach. Walking into a room of strangers felt unsafe. I thought networking was only for the confident people who could make small talk effortlessly. What I didn't realise at the time was that so much of my fear around visibility wasn't actually about business. It was about safety. When you spend years being judged, compared, criticised, or made to feel like you're too much, visibility feels dangerous. Being seen feels dangerous. Because somewhere along the way, you start believing, if people fully see me, they'll reject me. And I think that's why meeting people like Jill changed so much for me. Jill has an incredible ability to see strengths in people before they can see them in themselves. I remember being terrified in those early workshops, completely overwhelmed, overthinking every interaction, every sentence, every question I asked. And yet, she's never made me feel like I'm too much. She makes space for me, not just professionally, emotionally too. And I don't think people fully understand how life-changing that can be when you spent years shrinking yourself. There's something really powerful about being around women who genuinely want to see you succeed, not to compete with you, not silence you, not make you smaller. Just support you, encourage you, remind you of who you are when you forget. And honestly, I think meeting Jill was one of the first moments in years where I started believing maybe there was still a future version of me that felt confident, successful, and fulfilled. Not despite my health, not despite my neurodivergence, but alongside it. But I've learned that networking doesn't have to be a performance. It can be a connection. I've had to learn to use my voice and stand up for my needs. Even now, asking for accessibility still fills me with guilt sometimes. I feel like I'm being too much or an inconvenience. But accessibility is a basic need, and I've learned that the right people don't want you to shrink yourself. Bad flare days are terrifying. There are days when I lose sensation in my legs or my arms completely. Days where I can't hold myself upright. The scariest part is when the words stop forming. I know what I want to say in my head, but what comes out is gibberish. For someone whose whole life and business is built on communication, it's frightening. On those days, I'll try and get up anyway. I'll try and be productive. But I always end up back in bed. And then the fear starts. What if this doesn't pass? What if this time movement doesn't come back? And then there's the reality of isolation. I have Victoria, who is one of the most important people in my life, but she's not there 24/7. There are long periods where I'm alone, behind those curtains, hearing the world continue without me. People see Victoria sitting beside me at events, but they don't see her helping me wash my hair because doing it myself leaves me bedridden for days. They don't see her helping me with my clothes because my hands and legs have stopped working. They don't see her advocating for me at doctor's appointments when I physically can't explain what's happening. Without her, I would be completely isolated. I also want to be honest about the toll this takes on relationships. Caregiver fatigue is real. My relationship of 5 years ended recently, and it broke my heart in ways I'm still processing. Hearing someone say they can't support you anymore, that resentment has built up, is devastating. I didn't choose this, and I didn't choose to get sick. Living together after a breakup because of a lack of accessible housing options makes it even more exhausting. When there's no separation or privacy, and you're tripping over things on the floor or feeling like your basic needs are too much, you stop feeling safe in your own home. And when your body already feels unsafe 24/7, it destroys you emotionally. It's been a heavy season. In 2025, I felt like I was constantly waiting to catch a break. Between the health struggles, a relationship ending, an early miscarriage, and housing stress, there were weeks where I cried daily. Life felt overwhelming and at times pointless. But I've also learned that being different is actually my greatest teacher. I live with dyslexia. It's not just about reading or spelling. It's the mid-sentence word-finding issues piled on with the brain fog and the need to triple-check every single email. For a long time, I saw it as a flaw, but as an educator, it's my superpower. I understand what it's like to be the child who learns differently, who needs extra time, or who feels left behind. I design my lessons and sessions with visuals and hands-on tools because I needed those things. I break tasks down because I know how big tasks can feel like mountains. Kindling Minds exists because younger me needed someone who understood that being neurodivergent isn't about being broken. It's about having a brain that lights up differently. We often hear words like struggling or behind when people talk about neurodiversity, but those words miss the creativity, the hyperfocus, and the deep empathy we bring to the table. I wouldn't change my brain, even if I could, because different is exactly what this world needs. One of the best decisions I've ever made was going no contact with certain family members. It was painful, but I realised that love should not make you feel small. I spent so much of my life feeling judged and compared. I thought I was the problem. But then I found my tribe. It started with a parent who encouraged me to start Kindling Minds, and that one conversation changed the entire trajectory of my life. I reached out to Business Gateway, South of Scotland Enterprise and King's Trust. I remember my first session with Jill and Tara at Building Confidence and a Strong Mindset. I was terrified to be visible, but for the first time, I was in a room where I didn't have to mask. I was surrounded by women who were all trying to better society in their own ways. Jill, Lindsay and Tara became more than coaches. They became my mentors and friends. They helped me see my strengths even when I was focused on my struggles. Therapy with Lindsay has also completely changed the way I understand myself, and I don't say that lightly. I think before therapy, I understood that certain relationships hurt me emotionally, but I didn't fully understand why. I didn't understand the patterns, the cycles, the way certain comments, comparisons or reactions had shaped the way I viewed myself for years. Lindsay helped me start untangling all of that. She helped me realise that there are so many of the beliefs I carried about myself weren't actually mine to begin with. The belief that I was difficult, too emotional, too sensitive, too much, not enough, lazy, failing. When you hear certain things repeatedly throughout your life, they stop sounding like opinions and start sounding like facts. And therapy has helped me slowly separate who I actually am from who I was taught to believe I was. That process has been emotional, really emotional, because there's grief in realising how long you spent apologising for yourself. But there's also freedom in finally understanding I was never the problem. And honestly, I don't think I'd be where I am without Lindsay. She helped me realise that boundaries are not cruelty. Protecting your peace is not selfish. And going no contact was not me giving up. It was me finally choosing myself. Through the Pathways program, I learned that networking is about human connection, not just transactions. I stim openly. I ask questions. I say I don't understand. I've even spoken on the news and attended a parliamentary reception. These are things before Cara wouldn't have dreamed of. Finding a community that accepts you, not just tolerates you, but values you because of your differences, changes everything. For the first time in a very, very long time, I started to feel like I belong. This episode has been a little bit heavy, I know, but despite the pain, the flares and the curtains, my life is beautiful. I think one of the most unexpected parts of healing has been realising that confidence doesn't suddenly appear overnight. Confidence grows in safe spaces. It grows when people consistently show you kindness, when they encourage you, support your ideas, celebrate your wins, when they sit beside you during your worst moments and remind you that you still matter. And I think for the first time in my life, I finally have that now. Between therapy, my business community, my friendships, my support worker, and all the incredible women around me, I finally feel safe enough to become myself fully. And it changes everything, because when you stop spending your entire life surviving, you finally have room to start living. It's not easy, but I have purpose. I have friendships that feel safe. I get to be the person I needed when I was younger, for other people now. If you're listening to this right now and your world feels small, if you're stuck in bed or you're behind curtains of your own, please know this. You're not weak for needing support. You're not lazy for needing rest. You are not difficult for needing accommodations. And you're not broken. There are people out there who will celebrate you and support you exactly as you are. But sometimes you have to stop shrinking yourself long enough to find them. Today, my success is recording this episode. That's my small step. If you're at the beginning of your own journey, remember, small steps still move mountains. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for giving me the space to be honest. I'll be back when I'm ready, but for now, I'm choosing steadiness over speed. And right now, I'm going for a nap. Bye.